money.
Say something, man. Any people in church in here? Anybody does church in here? Go to church every Sunday? I need y'all to pray that my baby mom has sex with Charlie Sheen with no condom. I'm tired of it, man. It don't make sense for somebody to take a shot to the coochie and get $600 a month. Can I at least get my oil changed sometimes?
Welcome to Raw Does It's a podcast. I got a special guest, AB. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm unmuted now. Thank God. I have a whole comedy set about people on Zoom and not knowing they're on mute. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, man. I started noticing there's a lot of people, comedians on social media willing to talk, to do interviews. It's so hard to find people when I was just regular podcasting before I started my comedy journey to come on my podcast. But comedians love to talk, so
wow,
that's good to know.
We do. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but we talk. Excuse my dog.
Oh shit, that's a big dog.
Yeah, she likes to say hello to every leaf that blows down the street. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So AB, let the people know who is AB, how long you've been doing comedy, stand up, all that.
Yeah, so I guess I just decided last year, 2023, that I wanted to do something with my life that didn't involve just going out and drinking. And I decided to take improv courses. So here in Baltimore, you're in Baltimore, I think, right?
No, I'm in Delaware, but I'm from Harford County.
Okay,
you know where Harford County is.
You know Baltimore Improv Group?
No, I never heard of it till now.
Baltimore Improv Group is in Baltimore City, Station North, and they do a 101 to 501 thing. And so I did improv, and I enjoyed it. But I will say that today my bit is not improv, although I learned a hell of a lot from improv. My thing is now stand up. So I did most of 23 doing improv and learning, listening, like hearing what people are saying and not getting ahead of myself, what is going on right now in this moment. And I think that's very valuable. I'm happy to talk about it if you want, but I think that's a very valuable choice.
So what is the biggest difference from you? What are the pros or cons starting with improv first, then go to comedy? What's your thoughts about that?
Listening. Yeah, it applies to everything from your work to your relationships to anything. It's instead of believing what you think you want to do, you need to hear what other people are doing. And in the comedy space, it's okay, you're going to present me with something, and I need to the basic is yes and, but it's more complicated than that. But it's accepting what somebody else says and saying, okay, I'm going to go with this. I don't know where it's going, but I'm going to go with this. And that works in your professional life, whether you're having a meeting with a higher up or anything like that. It's okay, I'm going to listen to you. But it also applies to comedy, right? So, and that's a big thing about stand-up, right? It's crowd work. It's I'm listening to the crowd. I'm not just doing a set of jokes. And so you work with that and you figure out if it works. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe whatever you did didn't work. But that's the core of it. It's you're listening and you're saying, okay, whatever I thought this was going toward, it's different now, and I need to be able to respond in kind. And so that's the Venn diagram between the two, stand up and improv. And that's, yeah, I tell up and coming comics all the time, is like, it might not be your style long run, but you should really do an improv class, because you really need to understand that whatever you think is funny might not actually be funny. And that takes listening and acknowledging what somebody else is seeing and not you. Sorry. Sorry, I had the flu.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, man, I never took no improv class. I know a lot of buddies that took comedy writing classes, comedy. I know that's a big thing in the just what I mean, the comedy landscape of people taking classes for writing. But for me personally, I go to an open mic where I have a lot of vets around me that will tell me to help me with my jokes. I didn't think that was a big thing. Like, man, I think you should switch the words up here. Let me see how you wrote it out. Let me help you just rewrite it. So it's not like I heard like crazy stories how things used to be in the 80s and 70s. I feel like people for the most part are really acceptive to help. You know,
can I ask a counter question on this? I know it's your show and you're interviewing, but like, can I ask a counter question?
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, like, so the counter question is, so yes, I agree with you. We got to always take in input from other people, and I whenever I'm doing a show or whatever, I'm always asking for that. Like, hey, like, if that didn't land, tell me. But the counter question is you got to know before you go in that you actually are funny, right? So you got to have that information that, okay, I'm up to the challenge of like getting in front of a bunch of people and letting it loose, and you got to be confident in that, right? What happens when you're not? And then you're looking to other people to say, "Hey, help me write my jokes." I'm not saying you're asking people to help you write your jokes.
Oh no. But like, I have had that happen. I had one time when I had a little bit too much to drink, right? Sometimes it happens, right? Sometimes you get to the 6th Jameson, and you're like, God damn, what did I do?
6.
Why did I drink that? And things where you don't know what to do, because a lot of, right now I'm at the open mic stage. I've only been doing this 7 months. I haven't been on those shows. I'm just working on the craft and bettering my weak premises and making it better, right?
Yep.
So it's a lot of situations at these open mics, and people come in there. Some people got open mics where you got to pay to come in.
No, I don't do that.
But it is certain situation where you can hear people heckle, right? I had a set where it's real bad. I'm a kind of person where I'm pro man to. It's sickening that I'm pro man, but I feel like men, black or white, aliens and mermans, we get the short end of the stick on everything, justice wise, family court, just everything. So I come from that perspective of pro man, and sometimes being in a democratic state of Maryland doing comedy, there's a lot of feminists like, you guys tone it down
like
and
me.
Yeah. So I had a bad thing when I was a little bit drunk and I was kind of already irated, and I let somebody have it, and I kept on hearing the lady say, "Where's the joke at? Where's the joke at?" So at the end, when I had a nice host, I had a host ask me, "Man, Rod didn't really mean what he said about domestic violence and child support system. He didn't really mean that." I said, "Yeah, I did. Fuck them. You know, you think their feelings hurt." Like, but and I notice, you know what I mean, some people, man, I just feel like comedy, you should be able to express yourself. Even if you don't like what I'm saying, at least give me an opportunity, like, to finish
Yeah,
my setup. Like,
yeah.
if I'm not really talking, offending anybody, I'm just talking about the child support system. I'm just talking about, hey, bondage or dominatrix. You can have aggressive sex nowadays. You can actually do domestic violence if it's during sex. Just joking, right? On some silly stuff. You should not want to try to mess up my set by talking.
You want okay. So first of all, consent is important.
Mm-hmm.
Please have consent before we do creepy shit. But yeah, no, I get it. Like, and everybody's got their thing, right? So like I'm a little bit more I'm a little edgy, but like I don't try to push the deal very much. But at the same time, I also have comics at my own shows that are like they will press it, right? And that's fine. My rule is generally for my thing is like I don't want to have people making jokes about groups that they are not in. So if you're not a woman, I don't want you making jokes about women. If you're not black, I don't want you making jokes about being black. If you're not trans, I don't want that. Like you do not have the right to make those jokes. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but that's who we are. Like I'm a white straight dude. I can make white straight dude jokes. But even beyond that is that there's so much in life that is funny that we don't even have to go near that. Like just going into a store and like having like I'm making stuff up right now. I'm not like
Like
this isn't
I have other stuff. Like I have a whole bit about growing up in the 90s and early 2000s being in special ed. And I got no
perfect.
problem with that. Nobody
Yeah.
talk about that. But when you talk about women, they bring out the pitchforks and you Frankenstein.
Well, I mean, sometimes guys don't really get what women really want, right? Like, and so we just like, start making jokes about women, and it's like, dude, do you even know who we are? Yeah. I just try to avoid it altogether. It's just like there's so much more funny in life. I can make jokes about anything, but I don't want to like put a group in and like make a joke about a group I'm not in.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. But I definitely, my idols, I feel like they had more free range. Like I listen to my influences. You know, I'm a younger guy, but I remember my uncles playing Pryor and Eddie Murphy and, you know what I mean, Roger Dangerfield. He's talked about his mom and, you know, all little slick shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that
George
was
Carlin.
long ago. Like,
So
would you
long
want
ago.
Jimmy Kimmel doing that now?
Oh, he
Like,
get canceled. like, like, I feel like anything you can talk about an ant getting stamped by licked by a cat, you can't cancel now.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. No, I mean, I think about like, so the way I look at comedy is like comedy, if it's done right, it's got to be done right. And there's, as a host, I have so many people get up there for an open mic and they think they're funny. Their moms think they're funny, but they're not funny, right? They just get up there and they read their phone and they're like, "Oh, what's the next joke I have?" And that's not.
what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts about that as a host? When people trying
I don't.
things out, when people trying things
I
out, do
don't.
you
I don't
feel
mind.
like
I don't mind the trying things out bit. Like I do that too. I also have places I go that like are low pressure that are not like literally the dude that I'm thinking about is stoned all the time and he doesn't care. So like if I want to try out new material, I just go there and then doesn't matter, right? But
personally,
like
I don't like using the phone. I don't like using the phone because I feel like that's gonna become like my Adderall, or I'm gonna be so
yeah,
dependent on it that
yeah.
it's gonna
Well,
mess up my
I mean, you
mind.
gotta and you know this too. There's two styles of stand up, right? There's the scripted one, which is what we're referring to. It's very common. It's very frequent. I don't love it, but it is what it is. And then there's storytelling. I'm a storyteller. So like it's easy then to say, okay, there's something I'm going to tell a story about that's from my life that I know, and I can find the funny in that, but I don't have to like keep on referring to my phone because I already know what's in the story because I lived it, right? So like you just get out there and you're just like, okay, I mean, and sometimes you fail, right? Sometimes it's just like you thought that was funny and it just fell flat. But you don't it takes the hard work out of doing a comedy set because you're talking about something like you're not like creating a scenario. You're not like you don't have to go like I don't do writing, so I understand a lot of comics do. I don't, because I'm a storyteller, right? So like my comedy is all about like I already know what the situation is because I lived it, and now I'm just like filling in the blanks to find the funny things that are in it, right? I don't have to write it out and like that takes the complexity out of set, right? Because like
I'm ready.
Yeah, it's like okay, we can do a lot of writing, and that's fine. Like SNL does that, and like that's sketch comedy. Like that's fine. I get it, and it makes sense for various different things. I personally prefer when I'm up on stage. I want to feel the audience. Like I want to know where they're at. And sometimes it's like stupid. Like they're just like not into it. They're just there because whatever Monday Night Football is coming on next. But like I want to get that vibe. And so like I remember one time I did a stand-up set, and my friend Cam does a set about a second wedding. We're both in our 40s, and you know, we all in our 20s went through all the things about. I have a friend coming in. We all went through. We all went through these things where it was like, oh yeah, when we were in our 20s, we did weddings. It was like wedding season all the time. I mean, like right now, like I have a friend of mine who was like, oh my God, thank God, it's like 18 weddings this summer. I'm done with it. She's in her 20s. And then, like, once you're in your 40s, you think it's all over, but then your friends get divorced and they have second weddings. So, like, I like to feed that vibe. And so, when I made a joke about doing that, Cameron's wife, Tosh, was like, oh, yeah, second weddings. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's funny. Okay, let's do it again. But it's because you already know that, like, that's where the crowd is at, right? And so you got to be able to know your crowd instead of just being able to like have a bunch of jokes ready to like recite. And that's my philosophy, and that's how I approach all of that stuff. It's like you know what? And it's funny because like, and I'm sure you know this too. I carry a notebook everywhere I go, right? Because you never know when the funny stuff is going to happen. And I mean, you're not doing a comedy set necessarily, but you want to write it down immediately because you're gonna forget. Oh, I'm forgetful as fuck. So like, sorry, I don't know if language is allowed on your
No, that's
podcast.
fine. That's
Um,
fine.
but like, I'm forgetful all the time, right? So I have to write it down, and then it's like, okay, maybe that becomes a thing later, and that's the process, right? That's like the thing that is like, okay, so we're gonna do this. And it might not work. It might work. It might not work.
And that's why I believe in taking breaks, man. I feel like sometimes, um, for me personally, this is my young time doing it for 7 months. I take breaks sometimes. Sometimes I don't go to no open mics. I just take a break to see can I bring the funny back out of my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes you squeeze so much. Sometimes you squeeze every little bit out of that
Sometimes you try too
that
hard.
lemon, and you try too hard. Like you said, you try too hard, and then sometimes you got nothing. Sometimes you got to take the break and just come up with stuff. But I feel
Yeah.
like personally, in this my comedy style, I feel like I'm like Larry David. I make myself like Larry David, right? I use the realistic stuff that happened in my house. I got kids, so I use them stories, but I just add a little extra to it to
Yeah.
make it
Yeah,
funny.
that's exactly how it works. That's exactly how it works. It's like, hey, well, the story I'm telling you is true, but it might not be entirely 100% true.
Hmm.
I'm just like tweaking it a little bit. Yeah, totally get it.
So like I have a joke where I talk about, you know what I mean,
You know
I'm
what I mean? I'm
always
always
boozed up. You know what I mean? I like to drink, right? So my son asked me, Dad, the tooth fairy didn't come. I said, damn, I forgot. I was drunk that night. So, you know what I mean? I just keep it realistic. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
somebody can realize, damn, I got fucked up one night and I could put a dollar underneath my kid's, you know what I mean, pillow. You know what I mean? I
Well, I
feel
mean, I do the same thing. Like one of my sets, I do has to do with travel, and I'm not going to go through it. I'm not going to do a set right now for you, but
mhm,
like one of my sets is travel, right? I love
mhm,
international travel, and one of the things that I've done I've seen or recognized in my travel is that wherever I travel internationally, like the president, the world leader, the prime minister, whoever it might be, the king, queen, uh, is no longer there. It's like my superhero power, right? I went to England and like the Queen died, and then there's King Charles, so that's two monarchs, and then Boris Johnson, and yeah, whatever. And then I went to Denmark in January, and the Queen abdicated throne in Denmark. So it's like you look at those things as like simple things that are funny in their own regard, but also you get the opportunity to explore that and like look and say, okay, this is funny. Let's figure out like, so where else do I need to go to like depose world leaders? Like it's
mm.
such a stupid concept, but it's funny because anybody can recognize you don't have to get political, you don't have to get sexist, you don't have to do anything controversial. You can just be like, yeah, so this happened, and that's funny. So what can I do about that?
And I've been just, you know, looking at some older comedians about self-deprecation. I feel like it's a
Oh,
dying
absolutely.
art, and I feel like it's too many people trying to be Dice and grab their dick. But
Yep.
you know what I mean? Or Adam Sandler,
Yep.
or whoever, or in my case, for being black, hip hop comedy. You know what I mean? That boom of hip hop comedy
Yeah.
still going on, but you can really set yourself past, you know what I mean, the certain comedians if you just be yourself and be a real human. You know what I mean?
Can I,
And
can I say something real controversial?
go ahead,
Maybe it's
go ahead.
not so controversial, but maybe your audience might think it. Uh, you're talking about black comedy. I love black comedy. There's a really great like set of people out there that are like freaking fantastic. I don't like Dave Chappelle.
A lot of people don't.
Okay, so I didn't say anything that
Not
controversial.
AB, and a lot of people didn't like him too. He did the Chappelle show. A lot of people didn't like him. Y'all the one to really uplift him, white people. You know what I mean? Uplift him and put him at a high regard, which we started looking at him a little different.
I like most of his comedy. Don't get me wrong. I just his trend stuff is like really disappointing to me. So that's the thing is like he like coming back from his like being in the desert with Comedy Central and whatnot. He came
Mhm.
back and has done a bunch of Netflix comedy series and all that stuff. And it's like he's got some good stuff, but at the same time, it's like he's just so anti-trans, and I just don't appreciate that. And I'm like, dude, like, stop smoking your cigarettes on stage, and
Mhm.
let's talk about other things that are not controversial. You do not have to go down this road because that's comedy, right? There's so much in life that is funny. You don't have to go down these roads.
But it's
And
but it's just a lot of thing about shock comedy, and I feel
mhm,
like that's the biggest thing where people is pushing it. Like I feel like I like
Yeah,
shot comedy personally myself, but I feel like you can do it in a way where it's not hurtful, right? I got a joke where I talk about Casey Anthony, right? That, but it's an old situation, right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an old situation. I talk about a lady was bothering me and being a bitch to me, so I nutted in her shoes, right? But it was not really talking about putting the actual fetus into a bag. You know what I mean? So I feel
Hmm.
like you can do
Yeah, you can
sh-
do stuff with that.
shock comedy without really offending people.
I think there's also a place, and you're not wrong. You're right about that. There's also a place, and this is a struggle I have, like dealing with fans and whatnot, who are like, if something comes out that is a little controversial or whatnot, people get offended or whatever, and people have a right to be offended, whatever they want to do. But like, I also look at comedy as one of those things that is therapeutic if it's done right, like where it can be healing when it's. I think. um and I don't even know this video is even available online anymore because I've looked for it, and every time I've looked for it, it's been entirely difficult to find. But like right after 9/11, Jon Stewart on the Daily Show, everybody like just shut down their acts for the week after 9/11 because out of respect. But then when Jon Stewart and the Daily Show came back,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a master. Let's just be honest. He's a master of comedy. But like he did it in such a delicate way where he was like, he came on and his opening monologue was serious, acknowledging what just happened to the United States, acknowledging the pain people felt. He was saying, I recognize you, I feel it myself too. But at the same time, he was able to find comedy in that. And it was therapeutic, it was healing. And like if you do it right, then that's going to be okay. But if you don't do it right, then it's offensive, right? And so there's the balance of where in comedy you need to know where you're going. You need to understand what the impact of your statements are going to be, and understand like and not everybody has to deal with it post 9/11. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've got to do this now. But but like you should know when you get up on stage is that like everything you say, you don't know everybody in the crowd, and you don't know how they're going to filter that through their head or their imagination, or maybe it pulls up trauma of some sort. You gotta always be aware of that. And um some people are better than others, but that is like, I think if you ask me, and you're not, and I'm sorry I'm taking over your show.
It's fine,
uh
man. This is an open conversation,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not.
If you ask me, if somebody came into my life that was like, I want to do this, I just don't know how. I don't want to be on stage. I have stage fright or whatever. It's like I'm not that funny. You are that funny because like you can go and hang out at a bar with your friends, and you're gonna make jokes all day long, right? So you are that funny. You just got to get out of your head about that. But then it's like you get to another level where you have to think about where you're going and what you're doing, and you can't just say things for the sake of saying things, right? You have to, like, how is this going to land? And by the way, how am I going to convert this, segue this into something else? Like, there's a way to do it, but it's not necessarily easy to do. And I get that, and I try to avoid those sort of situations myself. But like, if there was a 9/11 next week, and I'm doing my next stand up on November 18th, I'm gonna have to address that in some way or another. And like, how do you do that? How do you do that respectfully? How do you find the funny in things that are hurtful?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a master class, right? If you can do that, because anybody can tell dick jokes. But like when you can meet the audience where they're at in that moment and say, you know what? I understand something is going on. And it doesn't have to be a tragedy. It could be anything. But like I understand where you're at. I'm gonna meet you in that moment. That is the skill that is unteachable. It's
Hmm.
just that thing that you have to know. Like you have to have that empathy to say, okay, I get you. That joke I was gonna do, I'm not gonna do that now because doesn't meet that moment. But let me tell you another one.
Yeah, but it's definitely trial and error. It's definitely like making spaghetti. You gotta see what sticks and move on. If sometimes I feel like sometimes you gotta take breaks from your material to see how I'm gonna redo it. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah,
good premise,
yeah,
but it's not
it's
all the
not
way
right.
there. It's not all
Yeah,
the way there. So
yeah, and I have a number of those. Like I have a number of those concepts in my head. I don't I won't say that I've necessarily, well, one of them I have, but I won't necessarily say that I've tried them in public. But like you kind of know and you look and you like, because I said I have my notebook and I write jokes down when they come to me. Stoned or whatever, and I was like, oh, that's funny, ha 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 ha. Write it down because I'm gonna forget it in the morning, right? Sometimes those things fit and sometimes they do not.
mhm,
Sometimes they need work, and
mhm.
sometimes they should just be thrown away. It's like, and you gotta be able to be in that headspace where you're like, okay, I'm gonna look at what I have. That's not as funny as I thought it was, or okay, and this needs to happen. We go through it. It's a process. It's I like I said, I don't do writing like you do, but my writing is my notebook, right? So I'm like when I'm gonna try to perform again and get on stage, I'm looking at my notebook and saying, okay, look through all the things I've ever thought about in my life. Is any of this funny? Yes, no, maybe so.
Mhm.
And you try, and sometimes
Mhm.
it doesn't work, and
So,
that's okay.
so how did you get the opportunity to host shows? You know what I mean? For people don't know about the hosting game, it's a different animal.
So I don't know if this is like generally applicable to most people, but I'll tell you what I did. I'm a regular at a bar around here in Canton,
Mhm,
and on Mondays they do not open upstairs. They have a downstairs and an upstairs, but on Mondays they don't open. They'll
mhm,
open it for like whiskey dinners or whatever, but like generally it's special events, right? Normally they're not open, but of course it's Monday Night Football right now, so like I have an in there where it's like, okay, well you're gonna be open anyway for Monday Night Football, so so I approached the owner and was like, "Hey, I want to get into this. I want to host. It's a hard job, folks out there watching. It's a
mhm,
hard job. Like hosting is a pain in the ass." Um, but I was like, "Hey, I want to do my own thing because comedy in Baltimore is blowing up right now. Like you have more stand-up open mics than you can shake a stick at this point, right? So it's like, hey, I need to get it. I mean, I always want to do it, but like, I need to get ahead of it and like get in there early before like, you know, I mean, I'm still not qualified for report. I'm probably qualified. I just haven't tried. But like, there's way more open mics out there than ever before, and it's like,
mhm,
okay, I need to get ahead of this game. So I approached the owner. I was like, hey, your upstairs is not open on Mondays generally. So what I would like to do is bring you business and like do an open mic up there. It's going to be an hour because 5 minute sets. Um, so 10 people, and he was like, yeah, sure. I mean, it's a risk because you got to consider when you do that to a venue, they need to have staff, right? So, like, I'm asking you to open your space that is not normally open, but that also means having a bartender and a server, right? And you got to pay them. So that's a concept. You need to make sure your like it's valuable to the venue. And right now, I'm not currently asking for like a cover charge or anything like that. It's free for anybody. And even like comics, so like I'm not booking anybody um, at this point. I do want to book people, but right now I'm not booking people. So it's like come as you are and just do what you do. But like tip your bartenders and buy some food and whatever. Um, and it's worked out. I've done a handful of them so far, but it's always that it is a struggle to go through the process of promotion, right? I'm not a rich guy. I'm not hiring anyone. I don't have anybody doing social media for me. It's me, right? So like getting the promotion stuff into the pipeline and getting people aware that there is a thing. You can come, you can get your drinks, you can get your food. And by the way, Chaucer upstairs is open, which is not normal on Mondays. That should sell itself, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily. And so, it's like I have a full time job. I'm trying to do all the things I'm trying to do and also promote the next show, right? So that is a challenge, and it's not something that should be taken lightly from anybody who wants to do hosting. But I would recommend, like, find a place that you have a relationship with, like where you can say, hey, if I walk in and talk to the GM or the owner or whatever, and I want to do this on whatever, they're going to be amenable to that. Like, that's helpful right there. That's the hardest part. Well, I won't say the hardest, but it's one of the hardest parts is like getting that in. And once you get that in, then you need to perform. And that means that's a hard process too. Is like that means you've got to create a poster image, you got to pay for Canva, like all these things, a QR code thing, whatever. Like you got to do all of that, right? Just to get people in the door, and that's a struggle as well. So it's not for the sleight of heart, but it's really fun when it works. Like Monday, I had a show, and it was a very light crowd. I didn't do a very good job this cycle, but I also had a shortened cycle, but whatever. Um, but it was good. Like the people that were there, the comics that got up on stage, they were great. And it was like, okay, so like don't sell yourself short because it's hard, right? It came to Monday morning. Monday morning, then that the morning of the day I was hosting, and I had one sign up. I had one.
Mm.
And I really wanted to like tell Brian that like, hey, I'm just gonna cancel tonight because I'm not feeling it. Like I don't have enough interest. You know what? It was great. I didn't have one. I had eight. Two of them are established comics in the Baltimore area, and both of them did 10 minutes. That's not five. But it was great. One of them, Mo Noor?
Yeah, I seen him around.
Yeah, so Mo came. So he hosts at Art House. Art House is closing or closed. I'm not sure which. But he hosted at Art House on Fridays and Saturdays every week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he doesn't have a place to be anymore, right? So like, I was like, hey Mo, I'm not trying to recruit you. I'm not trying to make you part of my thing. But if you want to be, that's cool. But why don't you come here? And I'll give you 10 minutes. And sorry, my phone and like trying to do video is weird. And I will give you 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes and like, if you want to bring comic, he brought comics. So it was like, great. Right. Okay. So now we're building a new community, and we're recognizing the people who have gone before us. And so
Mm.
So I've only been doing stand up since the beginning of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a lot like you, and like not a lot of experience in the space. Michael Furr's got 30 years in the space. Like, so all these people have like lots of time. I'm still figuring out, just like you are.
Mm-hmm.
But like that was the thing, is like, okay, so I can get the people who already have the networks. And you know how I know is like in the comedy community, we reinforce each other, right? Like even if you suck, I'm not going to tell you suck. I'm going to say good job. I mean, I will tell you suck later, but I'm going to give you a fist bump and say good job, right? You got up there. That's important. Um, But I also want so Mo and I are like doing the fist bump thing. I'm like, dude, I know our house is closing. Come on out, and he did. And I find out today that the other guy is performing at a wedding that my neighbor across my alley is officiating later this month. Who knew? I had no idea. So, like, it's those types of people. You're making those connections. You're talking to people. You're getting involved. Like, I went. My friend does a host at Can't Local on Mondays. Not every Monday, but Mondays, and I go there and support him, and also like, hey, who are the comics here? Maybe I want to like talk to them and bring them back into what I'm doing here. And it's not like a territorial thing. It's more like let's build the entire thing together, all
So
of us.
AB, how important you know what I mean, this, like you said, you don't got too much time, man. But I noticed firsthand networking and is so important in comedy. I this before I got into it, I thought it was just a wolf, you know what I mean? You didn't need a pack, but you need some like you said, reinforcement to really
Hmm. Yep.
just just slowly move up because you don't want to burn bridges in
And
this.
nobody lives on an island, right?
Nah,
So
nobody
like
lives on an island.
the moment you decide you're gonna go on your own and try to do something on your own is probably not always, but probably a good suggestion that it's gonna be a failure, and which is not a
Mhm.
bad thing by itself. No, don't be afraid to fail. Like it's fine. You learn from
Mhm.
failure, but yeah, it takes a village. It takes a village, and like my friend is here right now who came in and she has supported me. She's not a comedian herself, but she supported me the entire way. And she went to my improv shows. She's come to many, not all, but many of my stand up sets. And like she was there on Monday. Like you need a village, people that will encourage you, but also people on the comedy side who also like feed your intellect and think about like what is actually funny. Just because I think it's funny doesn't necessarily mean it's funny. What
Mhm.
makes it funny? And like having those conversations after the fact is actually really helpful for me in developing new material.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I thought it was funny at the time, but eh.
But all right, AB, I appreciate you coming on. We have 42 minute mark. Let the people know where they can go to your open mic, your social media, and if you have one or a couple, let the people know all that.
Okay, well, because I'm still new in the space, I don't necessarily have the social medias right now. But I mean, you can follow me on Facebook or wherever, Aaron Brazell, Brazell. I will have forthcoming. I have a YouTube channel in the works. I'm too old to understand Instagram or TikTok, but I'll get there. Um, but yeah, Aaron Brazell and my open mics are the next one will be it's third Mondays, but the next one will be November 18th. So it's a little bit before Thanksgiving at the Chaucer in Baltimore, Maryland. I don't have the address off the top of my head, but it's Highland and Foster. I think it's 2910 or something along those lines. But yeah, it's like Highland Avenue, Foster Avenue, in Canton. So that's where you can find me. And Aaron Brazell is the name. You can follow me on Facebook. That's my personal account. Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get there, but yeah, and come on out, and I will have a poster image soon, and I'm gonna get the YouTube channel published soon because I want to put that on that. But right now, it's just Aaron Brazell. AB positive is the stage name.
Okay, man. Again, I appreciate you coming on, man. Give me your time, you know what I mean, during this week, man. I know everybody working and going home and just want to relax. So I appreciate you coming on there on the channel and give me your experiences in this young comedy journey
Yeah,
of
dude.
both of ours, man. I appreciate conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it as well. I want you to come out to one of my shows to watch or to perform, but also I want to wish you all the best in your journey as well.
I appreciate that too, man. Because like you said in the beginning, man, comedy is therapy, and it
Yes.
helped me out with my darkest times.
Yep. I get you. I feel you 100%. So thank you so much.
All right, man. You have a good night, man, and we're out.
You too.